In a warm pond where the water was soft like a silk blanket lived a duck with feathers the color of the morning sun. In the evenings, she loved to swim up to the quietest water lily and listen as the world slowly slowed down. Dragonflies folded their transparent wings, frogs yawned, and the wind whispered kind words to the water. The duck knew how to notice small things. She knew that every star was reflected in the pond in its own way, and if you looked closely, you could see them smiling. When the duck breathed evenly and calmly, the ripples on the water became smooth, as if the pond itself was learning to breathe with her. It was always like this before sleep, first breathing, then silence, and then dreams. One day, the duck found a small feather, not her own at all. It was silvery and light, like a thought just before falling asleep. The duck gently picked it up with her beak and placed it beside her on the water lily. "You must be lost," she said softly. The feather did not answer, but the water around them became warmer, as if someone had covered the pond with an invisible blanket. Night descended slowly, without hurry. The moon floated across the sky like a boat without oars. The duck decided to swim to the place where the moon's reflection was the roundest. On the way, she met a sleepy beetle who asked for a ride to the shore. The duck nodded, and the beetle climbed onto her back. They swam quietly so as not to wake the reeds. "Thank you," the beetle whispered when the shore was close. "You swim so calmly that my eyes are closing." The duck smiled inside herself. She knew that calmness was when you don't rush and allow the world to be exactly as it is. When the beetle left, the duck continued on and saw fireflies lighting up above the water. They lit up one by one as if someone were carefully turning on night lights for little dreams. The duck lay back on the water and let the current gently rock her. At that moment, she heard a thin sound as if someone softly called her. It was the silvery feather. It slowly rose and floated ahead, showing the way. The duck was not afraid. She knew that sometimes the night brings small miracles that lead you to places where it feels especially cozy. They arrived at a place where the water was smooth like a mirror. There were reflections not only of stars, but of the kindest thoughts. The duck felt her wings grow light and her heart warm. She folded her wings, closed her eyes, and allowed herself to rest. The feather settled beside her and became still, as if guarding her sleep. In the distance, the reeds softly rustled, as if telling each other a fairy tale. The moon sank a little lower, and the pond breathed even more slowly. The duck knew that a new day lay ahead, new meetings, and perhaps another small miracle. But for now, the night was just beginning, and somewhere nearby, the water was preparing to tell the next part of this story. The duck slept only for a short while, but her sleep was deep and soft, like a fluffy cloud. She dreamed that the pond had grown even larger and quieter, and that the water could sing lullabies. Each wave sounded like a gentle shh, and even the most restless thoughts dissolved, like sugar in warm tea. When the duck slightly opened her eyes, the night was still there. The stars were in no hurry to fade, and the moon seemed to have settled down to rest on the edge of the sky. The silvery feather slowly floated above the water, not flying away, as if it knew it was not yet time to part. The duck looked at it and felt a calm joy, the kind that makes you take a deep breath and close your eyes again. beside the water lily, a small fish quietly appeared. It didn't splash or make a sound. It just looked at the duck with big, shining eyes. "Do you mind if I stay here a little?" it seemed to ask without a word. The duck gently nodded, and the water around them became even quieter, welcoming the fish as part of the dream. Suddenly, the pond began to glow from within, just slightly, softly, like a nightlight in a child's room. Fireflies descended closer to the water and reflected double lights in it. They didn't fly, but slowly floated in the air, showing that the night still cared for all who were preparing to sleep. The duck lay down again more comfortably, tucking her beak under her wing. Her breathing became even and calm. Each inhale felt like a quiet, "all is well here," and each exhale like "everything is okay." The pond listened and adjusted to this rhythm so as not to disturb anyone's rest. The silvery feather settled on the water and turned into a tiny dreamboat. It gently rocked, guarding the silence. The fish swam away to tell the depths about the peaceful duck, and one by one the fireflies went out, leaving behind soft warmth. And when the night became very deep, the duck sank into sleep again, knowing that the story was not yet finished, because the pond knows how to keep fairy tales, the moon loves to return, and the duck will surely wake up to continue this quiet journey to the place where dreams become kind and long. The duck's sleep grew even quieter, as if she were floating not on water, but on pure calm. In this dream, the pond slowly expanded, revealing new corners, each warm, each safe. There were no sharp sounds, only gentle pauses between them. Nearby, a drop of dew fell from a water lily leaf and didn't break, instead turning into a tiny circle of light. This circle drifted slowly across the water, carrying a feeling of coziness. The duck didn't wake, but smiled in her sleep, because even in dreams she understood everything was unfolding just as it should. The reeds gently bowed to the wind, and the wind grew quieter. It didn't want to disturb anything. It knew this was the time when night carefully covered everyone, the duck, the fish, and even the distant shores. The moon rose slightly higher again, looking like a soft lantern, shining not too brightly, just enough to banish fear. The duck dreamed that she could swim between dreams. In one dream it was warm, in another calm, in a third absolutely nothing happened, and that was especially pleasant. She chose the quietest one and lingered there, listening as the pond slowly counted the stars. The silvery feather appeared again, but now it didn't glow. It simply existed, and that was enough. It reminded the duck that she was not alone even when everyone else slept, even when the world seemed frozen. The night became deep and soft, like a giant pillow. Everything around breathed slowly and evenly. The duck turned onto her other side, the water obediently supporting her, and the pond closed its eyes along with her. Somewhere at the very edge of the dream, a faint morning was beginning, not bright, only promising light. It did not hurry. After all, the story could still continue, and the duck would surely reach it. This promising morning was like a quiet thought that hadn't yet become a word. It glided above the water without touching it, so as not to wake the dream too early. The duck was still asleep, and her sleep was even, like the smooth surface of the pond without a single ripple. In her dream, the duck found herself on a small island made of warm light. There was no grass, no sand, only the feeling of peace. Every step was light, and she didn't even want to walk. She just wanted to be. She sat down, folded her wings, and listened as silence told its stories, without words, without sounds, directly to the heart. Meanwhile, the pond carefully guarded her sleep. It slowed its flow so the water wouldn't ripple and hid all reflections except the softest. Even the stars seemed to move slightly farther away so they wouldn't shine too brightly. Everything around knew the main thing now is calm. The silvery feather quietly descended beside the sleeping duck and transformed into a fluffy little cloud. It covered her like a blanket and became warm. The duck breathed more deeply, and that breath spread across the water in circles of serenity. Somewhere in the distance, the night bird stopped singing, deciding its song was no longer needed. The reeds froze. Even time seemed to sit down nearby and close its eyes. Everything was in its place. And while the duck continued to sleep, the night lingered a little longer to hear this dream to the end, for ahead lay so much silence into which one could gently drift further. The silence became so deep that one could rest in it, like in warm water. The duck barely stirred in her sleep, and the cloud blanket gently adjusted to her, preventing her from waking. Everything around seemed to know now it's important not to rush. In her dream, the duck saw the pond slowly turning into a cradle. The water rocked her ever so slightly, just like a lullaby before the deepest sleep. Each gentle sway felt like a quiet, "Everything is okay," and "You are safe." The silvery feather, now transformed into a cloud, softly glowed from within and became a tiny, starry path. It led nowhere, and that was its calm. The duck simply watched it in her dream and felt her thoughts becoming light and sparse like delicate fluff. The pond breathed slowly and evenly. Inhale, the water rose slightly. Exhale, smooth again. Even the moon seemed softer, its light spreading over the surface without harsh reflections. The world demanded nothing, asked no questions, called no one. It simply existed beside her. The duck dreamed that she could listen to the silence as well as she listens to the gentle splashes of water during the day, and the silence told her that the night was not yet over, that much calm still lay ahead, and there was no need to hurry. She curled a little more comfortably, tucking her beak under her wing, and her sleep deepened further. Somewhere far away, morning still waited its turn, but now it was patient, and the story continued to drift slowly like the pond under the moon, leaving space for the next peaceful moments. In these quiet moments, the duck seemed to dissolve into the dream itself, becoming part of it. There was no beginning, no end, only a gentle current that carried her carefully and tenderly. Even if someone looked at the pond now, they would see only smooth water and the soft glow of the moon. But inside, the most important thing was happening: rest. The sleep became warm, like down under her wing. The duck dreamed that she floated without moving her legs, and the water itself knew where to carry her. There were no waves, no shores, only the feeling that everything had already been found and nothing needed searching. The silvery feather no longer appeared, because now it was inside the dream, like a calm thought that required no words. It reminded her that even when it seems that everything has disappeared, in reality, everything has simply grown quieter. The pond listened to the duck, and the duck listened to the pond, and between them there was not a single extraneous sound. The reeds, the fish, the fireflies, all had long been asleep, and the night resembled one big warm breath, rising and falling slowly. Far away, beyond the edge of this dream, the first ray of morning was only beginning to emerge. It did not shine yet, only thought about light. And the duck, still sleeping, knew that when the time came, she would awaken easily and peacefully. For now, the night continued, and the story did not rush to end. It simply flowed quietly beside her, leaving room for the next breath, the next dream, and the next gentle page. The next gentle page unfolded almost imperceptibly. The night wrapped the pond a little deeper, as if checking that everyone was comfortable. In her dream, the duck slowly floated through warm light, and this light had no source. It simply existed, like calm that needs no searching. She dreamed that the water could remember kind moments. Every time the duck had helped, smiled, or simply floated slowly, the pond preserved it like tiny sparks. Now they lit up one by one beneath the water, making the dream even softer. The duck did not think. Thoughts rested along with her. Only a feeling remained, light, warm, and reliable. Her wings were heavy with comfort, and her heart calm and steady, like quiet clocks counting not time but serenity. Even the silence became velvety. It neither rang nor pressed. It supported, like water supports the duck when she stops moving. Everything was exactly as it should be. Somewhere at the edge of sleep and awakening, the silvery feather appeared again, but now it neither glowed nor flew. It simply lay nearby, reminding her, if she ever wants to continue, it will be there. And the night, still unhurried, let the duck sleep on, knowing that the story could continue as long as needed for the most peaceful rest. The pond sighed softly, as if turning another invisible page. The night became completely gentle, as if it could be stroked. The duck slept deeply and peacefully, and her sleep felt like slow drifting without a destination, to a place where nothing needs to be done. In her dream, the duck felt the water grow slightly warmer. It was not from the sun or the moon, but from care. The pond seemed to tell her without words, "Rest, I will hold you." And the duck trusted it, allowing herself to become completely light. Nearby, a memory drifted past, not bright but tender, of a time when the duck once saw the reflection of clouds and did not hurry away. The memory quietly nodded and dissolved so as not to disturb the sleep. Others followed it, all gently, one by one, as if they knew this was not their time. The silvery feather turned into a quiet rustle, like breathing. It was no longer an object, it became part of the night, and the duck felt so calm that even in her dream she stopped floating and simply was. Everything around slowed a little more. Even time stopped counting seconds and simply sat nearby, unmoving. The reeds did not whisper, the water did not sway, the stars did not shimmer. They rested together with the duck. And somewhere very, very far away, morning was still waiting. It knew it would come later, quietly and gently, for now the night continued to protect this sleep, leaving space for one more warm, peaceful page. This page was almost transparent. There were no events on it, only a feeling of coziness, something you could dissolve into. The duck slept so deeply that the sleep itself felt like a quiet lake inside a lake, where even reflections were unnecessary. The pond gently rocked her, just a little, as if checking that everything was all right. The water knew, when movement is slow, sleep grows stronger. The duck sighed softly, and that sigh turned into a warm wave that traveled far, far away without waking anyone. In the dream, the duck found herself in a place without up or down, only a soft here. There was no need to swim, no need to choose a direction. Every moment was the right one. Even silence stopped being noticeable. It simply supported everything. The silvery feather reminded of itself again, but now it became part of the duck's dream, like a quiet spark beneath the wing. It did not shine or move, it simply warmed, and that was enough. Somewhere at the very edge of the night, the stars slowly changed places so as not to freeze. The moon grew a little thinner, but its light remained soft. Everything around seemed to agree not to hurry and to wait for as long as needed. The duck continued to sleep, calm and trusting. The story did not end, it simply took a long pause so that one could rest a little longer.